the brain is quite unique in that, in many ways, but in that it can create a thought, and at the same time it can change itself.
Oh yeah.
And so that's an interesting kind of thing. It's almost godlike in the sense that the Word became flesh. I mean, in some sense, the Word, the thought, can actually change the molecules.
Or the flesh became the Word. Flesh is the brain.
Yes.
I think that most of the brain's energy is spent in talking to itself.
Right. And probably some of the thoughts are, I think many psychologists say 80% of what we think about is the same thing over and over again, rumination.
Yeah, probably.
We were talking about childhood, and I often pose this question to my students, and I ask, have any of you ever felt that sometime in your life that something was wrong? Have you ever felt that I don't belong? Have you ever felt that nobody cares? Have you ever felt that I'm all alone?
Nobody loves me, everybody hates me, going in the garden eat worms.
Right, and I wonder these kinds of feelings that we get as we're very young. Maybe in some ways religion attempts to give a sense of purpose and meaning. Now, Viktor Frankl talked a great deal when he was alive and written many books on having meaning to your suffering, because we know the Buddha talked about the suffering, and Viktor Frankl had the experience of being in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and he found that those who were able to put some meaning to it, whether it's you're suffering as a child when you really don't know what's going on, but what do you think about the sense of having meaning and purpose in your life?
Oh, I think that when people get to the point they have no meaning or purpose, maybe they jump off a bridge. See, I think in childhood, I think in a way, in reality, we can be victims. You know, let's face it, we're very helpless. We are, you know, really...
For a long period of time, unlike, let's say, a chick that's hatched, with a relatively short period of time, they're able to.
That chick can, within hours, is pecking grain off the ground. For a long time, I think that, and so I think that the victim philosophy, the paranoid look, you know, they're out there to get me, I think maybe has a very natural origin in childhood. Hopefully, as one of my definitions of adulthood is you're an adult if you're willing, no matter what happens, to ask, how did I create that? What's my role in creating it? Maybe you didn't cause it, but certainly it's, once it happens, it's your bag of worms. It's your...
And how you respond, what you do with what's been done to you, and to be able to discern the best decision and how to respond to that too, as opposed to just a knee-jerk reaction to situations. So many people are just reacting to situations.
Well, yes, and often blame. Blame and not seeing their role in creating.
The blame game seems to be a big part of our culture. What about guilt? Now, on the one hand, you can have sort of a healthy guilt or a sense of I don't want to do that again, or a contrition. But the kind of guilt that lasts for years and years, that almost can be sort of self-indulging and self-righteous in a way, can't you? That I like my guilt, but some people get attached to their guilt, or what?
Well, you know, Jim, one time I thought that I would write a book entitled Guilt Without Sex, a Manual for Recovering Catholics, would be the subtitle. I think there is real guilt. I think if we actually have done something consciously to harm ourselves or harm another human being, I think we should be guilty. I think there is spurious guilt. I can remember one lady that I saw years ago that would feel guilty about, that's when Coca-Cola was still a nickel a bottle, spending 5 cents for a Coke, even though she had the money. Just felt...
Money was to save, not to spend.
Well, and felt that she was not worthy, that somehow this was indulgent. I think certainly in certain forms of Western Christianity, there's a tremendous amount of guilt induction. And I think guilt has a very valuable role for the hierarchy. It's a way to control the masses. You know, I can make you guilty and say, unless you shape up your behavior, I want you to be guilty. If you're not guilty enough, I'm going to send you to hell, you know, excommunicate or whatever. It's a very, very valuable tool for people who want to control the lives of others, but it's also a very destructive tool for people to punish themselves.
Okay, well, we're going to do something very different now. We're going to let the camera person, Laura, here. She's been listening in on our conversation. Laura, you pick it up. What were your questions?
Well, I was just, you were talking about the mind and thinking to himself, you know, when you think to yourself, and then when you die, then the mind goes, you know, the physical body dies, but there's something in the brain, that little guy, that when you think to yourself, I'm thinking to myself, and I have conversations with myself, and it's not like it's just one entity. There's like two. It's like there's something other than just my brain, or my brain's talking to my body, but it's not the body, it's the essence of the spirit, or the, I mean, what is that? You know, when you think to yourself, don't religion. You think two? You know, you don't think I'm just thinking to myself, and it's one.
That I'm not only my body, I'm not only my brain, I'm not only my thoughts, but I'm my spirit. The idea that, again, this is a big thing. It's a great number of people, the vast majority of people, believe that after we die, after all the chemical reactions cease, there still is part that continues. The spirit, the soul. That's what religion is about. It's belief in the hereafter, the supernatural. The idea that you have a soul.
Very interesting to talk about, but you're never, ever, ever going to solve is like what happens after death. You know,
no, that's correct, and that's a matter of faith.
That's like the surprise at the end of our little adventures here, you know.
And most people believe there will be a surprise.